Yes. Okay, we're back on. We'll
We're
just crack on with it because it's bloody
We're
exciting.
trying to work out our production values and things.
Yeah,
we don't
that's
have,
what
we don't have the benefit of
lighting,
a team,
scripts,
a team, or anything like that. Yeah, no.
Makeup artists.
No, nothing like that. So we just have to. But that's not the point. The point is what we're talking about.
Which is SmartarseTube.
It's not us. It's about
exactly
emergence. Why there is anything at all.
Yes.
And how we know it.
Right.
And that is. There'll be a whole lot more of other interesting stuff after that, but this is a bit of a journey.
It's a journey
that the audience, the audience, will have to come with us on if you're going to find out.
Yes.
So, emergence. I think we sort of covered emergence a bit in general, and we might get the hang of it at some point.
Yes, we might.
But
I think you have.
The trouble is it's like. If I could just do a head dump of everything and then
mind meld,
it would be there.
Mind meld.
Yeah,
yes.
that would help. But
yes.
As it is, I've got to try and explain it. And I'm not a teacher. I'm not a lecturer. I'm not qualified for anything. You should know that this is all just.
He's not qualified for anything, but he did get three A levels at A grade in science subjects. So. Not a thickie.
A long time ago.
A long time ago, maybe, but not a thickie.
I'm just a dropout, really. There you go. Anyway, so back to the main course.
Yes.
Of why is there anything at all?
So enlighten me. Why is there anything at all?
Right. So.
Is there anything at all?
Descartes could have said, "Well,
is this all an illusion?"
What? And the others could all have said, "What would there be if there was nothing?" Well, okay, nothing, I will argue with anyone, is a paradoxical situation. Nothingness. And when I say nothingness, I mean absolutely nothing. No space, no time, no laws, no numbers, no God, no nothing.
Nothing.
Okay.
It's
paradoxical because it is complete.
Indeed. A complete nothing.
Nothingness at all. Absolutely nothing. What would there be? Well, there would be nothing.
There would be nothing.
But there is that is a state.
Yes.
It's a whole state.
Completely whole state.
Now, to grasp this idea, really, you have to think about really what I describe as virtual relationships, and in that regard, all relationships are virtual in that they are as if they were there.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And this is quite an important concept to get.
Yeah.
Because the as-ifness of things is fundamental to the whole concept of why there is anything at all, because it's only as if there's something.
Yes.
But from that comes an awful lot, as is obvious, because we're here.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Indeed.
So, in the beginning, nothing at all. It's a whole state. Any whole state is a relationship between, it's a kind of a virtual relationship between the whole and the nothingness in this case. So that is, it's a very small beginning for things,
right?
But it is something and nothing, a paradox. My argument for emergence is that emergence occurs, or strong emergence occurs anyway, when you get a paradox. So they say nature abhors a vacuum, but I would say really nature abhors a paradox.
That's true enough.
Nature likes to fill a vacuum, but that's a whole another question, which we'll come back to later on.
Mm.
So we have something and nothing.
Something or nothing.
Now, when there's no numbers as such, but these are numbers. Nothing, same as 0.
0.
Something, same as 1.
Yeah.
And but without the numerals. So
yeah, because the numerals
there's no
wouldn't have been
counting going on.
invented
There's
at
no
that
nothing.
time.
You know, it's just this paradoxical state, a relationship between the nothingness and the whole of the nothingness, and 0 and 1. How many is that? Oh, look, it's 2.
Yeah.
0 and 1. That's. But now you've got 2, and so out of 0 and 1, paradoxically, you've got 2. Now, my claim is that this is where numbers come from. Numbers are the fundamental of the whole of existence. Without there being numbers, there can't be anything.
Right.
And what's more, every number is a whole thing.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is the other thing about virtual things, is that they overlay on each other. And I'm going to bring out a little bit of philosophy. Leibniz. So
Okay.
Leibniz, who's, I can never remember all his names, but he had lots of names.
Is it
I think.
Carl Leibniz?
No, something with a W, I think. Wilhelm, maybe something like that. I don't know.
We'll check
I don't
this
know.
out.
There's a lot of things I don't know. I can't remember. There you go. It's not important really. He was called Leibniz. He came up with this idea called the identity of indiscernibles, or sometimes put the indiscernibility of identities, meaning that if two things are the same or indiscernible, they are the same thing.
The same thing.
So every whole thing, and this is a point to bear, and this is fundamental again to things, every whole thing has that wholeness in common with every other whole thing.
Makes sense.
So there is no difference between one wholeness and another wholeness. They are both have that same quality of wholeness, and that is the same wholeness as that wholeness of nothingness.
Yes.
It's just the complete state, and so when we've got these numbers being produced, each one of those numbers, the integers, is whole in the same way as nothingness is whole, and 1 is whole, and 2 is whole, and they all overlay each other. And so this brings us to a mathematical point, that's where I think mathematicians are incorrect in the way they go about things.
Right, okay.
Which will be very controversial, and no doubt lots of people will object and have objected, and there you go. But
if you object,
well,
just message.
I mean,
and
it's a
say,
free world, isn't it?
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
The thing is that to a mathematician in general, I think, and this is like being generalising in the extreme, really. Numbers are generally thought of as being, or the integers as being, you start with nothing or 1, and then you add another 1 and you get 2, and then you add another 1, you get 3, you add another 1, you get 4, and so on and so on and so on. Keep going, and they assume that all those numbers are there. Since George Cantor, they've kind of taken on board, or the idea that there are an infinite number of numbers that are there,
right, and
that not only that, but there are an infinite number of infinities, and it's all lots and lots of different types of infinite, and It's all no. No. I don't buy that at all.
Right.
I say no. It starts off from nothing, and it has to have a starting point, because if it was infinitely long in the past,
yes,
or an infinite chain of events, shall we say, even though let's leave time out of it, just an infinite set of things happening or whatever, there would be no getting to here from there, because there is infinitely far away, and so it can't be done. My way of thinking of numbers is that 0 is whole,
right.
1 is whole. 0 and 1 are the same wholeness. But when it becomes 2,
yes,
that's like a little paradoxical tick. You know, tick tock, tick tock, goes from 0 to 1. 1 is 2, because there's 0 and 1 is 2. That forces 2 to exist. That 2 is part of the whole of existence. At that point in the chain of events is a wholeness that is now divided into 1 and 2, and they overlay each other. So 1 is now divisible by 2, or into 2. So all that 2 is a wholeness divided into 2 halves. How many is that? That's 3. So it forces 2 forces 3 to exist, but 3 is still another slice into the wholeness. So you're dividing what is whole each time. You're not adding on something. You're dividing it up each time, and that is crucial to understanding what existence is all about. And so I say that there's not an infinite chain of numbers. There's a boundless chain of numbers ticking into existence.
Right.
Numbers are alive, they're growing. There's more numbers now than there were when we started this video.
Absolutely.
And it'll carry on doing that. I could say ad infinitum.
You could, but
I'm denying the actual existence of infinity. I'm just saying I prefer the term boundless.
Boundless.
It's because infinity gets
boundless
confusing,
emergence, essentially,
really.
is what you're saying.
So there you have it. Numbers going. Now, we could talk about Galileo.
Let's talk about Galileo.
Paradox.
Absolutely.
That's a numbery thing.
We like these
Galileo
things.
thought basically squares were a bit of a paradox.
Right.
He may not have been the first one to come up with this, but anyway, it's named after him.
So explain this, I mean, to those that know absolutely nothing about science, like me.
It's not such a big deal, but it's another one of those things where most paradoxes are just misunderstanding the problem.
Right.
The thing with Galileo's paradox is, he says there's 1 can be squared, gives you 1. 2 can be squared, that's 4. 3 can be squared, 9. So every number has a square, but not every number is a square root.
Ah, there you go.
Something like that, anyway. And so it seems that there's more squares than there are square roots.
That's weird, isn't it?
Well, the problem there's a couple of problems. One is, again, that kind of depends on how many numbers you've got, but we're saying there's a limited number of numbers, certainly at the beginning, and still even now it's limited but growing. What's the solution to this paradox? Is it a paradox indeed? Well, the solution to it is that squares are not flat numbers.
No.
So 2 by 2 is something different from 2 plus 2.
Yes, very different.
And when you've got numbers coming into existence,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to give you there's numbers that have to come into existence with with the tick, right?
Mm-hmm.
The ticking of the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Reminds me of an old joke about. But never mind. I won't go into that one because it's not very funny. No.
Is it not funny?
No, it's.
Why is it not funny?
Because it's all dependent on knowing an old advert from the 60s.
Oh, we won't go there because most people don't know old adverts from the 60s.
Nobody will have heard of it. But anyway, the punchline is players that count, which was the advert line. But there you go.
Is that something to do with cigarettes?
It is.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
See, anyway. I've done my research.
So the thing is square numbers are square and flat numbers are flats.
Yeah.
The flat numbers emerge with hard emergence of paradox.
Right.
But when you've got 2, you've got the possibility of a square number 2 happening.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no. It's not such a. It doesn't. It potentially could happen, but it doesn't have to happen.
Right. Okay.
Right. So this is the difference between squares and what I'll call flat numbers or linear numbers.
Right.
So ordinary integers go that way. Squares are off to the side. They're adding an extra dimension.
Mm.
And and then when you've got 3, you can have 3 dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have cubes and it goes on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing about that is that as you increase the number of dimensions, the number of directions that you can go.
Right.
If you imagine a sphere. There's it has for a certain radius, which we'll just call 1. Keep it simple, a unit sphere. It has a certain volume and a certain area.
Right.
When you increase the number of dimensions from 3 to 4, you get a thing where the 4-dimensional sphere has a radius that it has a radius of 1, but hang on, let's get this right. I struggle with recalling mathematics a lot, but anyway, the basic thing is that the distance 1 has to go through 4 dimensions, so it comes down to instead of the 3-dimensional sphere having a radius of 1, the 4-dimensional sphere only has a radius of a half, because it's 4 lots of a half squared and half squared and half squared.
Right.
Give you 4 quarters, and then that gives you a radius of 1. So the coordinates are a half. So x is a half, and y is a half, and z is a half. I hope that makes sense to some of you. The bottom line is that beyond a certain number of dimensions, and it's not very many, 5 and 7 in fact, the volume and area of hyperspheres, as we call them, start radically decreasing. And you add a few more dimensions on, and there is virtually no volume to them. Virtually no surface area, because it all shrinks down because of that.
So is this all a theoretical concept? This is something to do with the way that maths...
It's the way mathematics, the way numbers work.
Yeah.
And the way adding dimensions work. Now, for most purposes, we live in a 3-dimensional world, really.
We do.
I mean, forget about time for now, but thing about area and volume is the reason why there are not thousands, worlds with dimensions in the thousands. Or rather, there are, because, we might come on to this later, when we get into all the emergent things in life and consciousness and thinking and ideas and everything else, those are multi-dimensional things.
Yes.
So they're still made up of the same numbers that make existence, but they don't take up and they don't create space. They don't make volume. They don't. They basically don't have mass.
Right. Okay.
So the thing about mass is it's a very much a three-dimensional property, and it gives us space. Mass and space, effectively the same thing. So that's kind of a rough explanation. It is very rough because, you know, I've only got a limited brain.
Yes. Yeah.
But the bottom line is that numbers will behave in a certain way that is the only way they can behave.
Right. So this is basically the mathematical law.
Now all of this, everything I've been talking about is virtual, because we're still talking about an existence that comes from nothing.
Yeah.
Now they say that there's a bit of Latin about something nil exilio nil or something, or
something like that. Yeah.
Nothing comes from nothing.
Nothing comes.
They
from
used
nothing.
to like saying that.
Yeah.
I can't remember the Latin.
Except it has to.
But the thing is that if you had nothing, then something would come of it, which is those numbers.
Indeed.
And that is the whole point of that. And the concept of there always having been something is nonsense, because it would be infinite and you'd never get from there to here. So
on that subject, we're going to take another quick break, and maybe we'll review what we've done up to now.
Oh, okay.